Hello, my friends. This lecture is not really a lecture, just an introduction to Eisenstein. Sergei Eisenstein, known as primarily as a filmmaker, uh, he was also a great theorist of montage or editing, but montage in a bigger sense. And being an artist, you will prepare yourself for a wild ride in reading this piece. The basic idea behind it, which will help you to understand it, which Eisenstein doesn't explain, is dialectic. And I'm talking about this text called A Dialectic Approach to Film Form. The ancient Greeks used dialectic. For them, dialectic just meant logic or reasoning. But with some key German philosophers in the 1800s and 1900s, Kant and then Hegel, dialectic came to mean something more specific kind of logic, this idea of conflict or collision, that things seem to be contradiction between them, but they actually fit into a bigger whole. So the kind of dialectic that Eisenstein is talking about, maybe the easiest way to think of it is that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Boom, boom. This is pretty easy when you think about physics, but Eisenstein wants to apply that to all of our thinking. That once we think one thing, it's going to cause us to think another thing. And it's just this constant back and forth of different, when we perceive something new, when we feel something new, that's going to change our thinking, this way, and then we feel something over here, it's going to push us back. We're in this constant pattern of collisions of new things, and that's what pushes us forward. So basically, the most basic form of that is, if you were going to do it as a philosopher, you'd say, this isn't how you would do it, but A plus B equals C. You have A and then B, and then C is the third thing that comes out of it. And the words that they use for this in logic are thesis. You start with your thesis, then it collides with the antithesis, or antithesis. Thesis plus antithesis equals synthesis is the third one. All right, I tried to come up with a little demonstration for this. Okay, Mardi Gras has passed, but say that this is our thesis here. And then Mr. Antithesis comes along. So what we have in the end is a synthesis. It creates a certain rhythm. The collision of those two results in something new. They don't just add together and sit together. It's the third thing, in this case, is the motion, the rhythm that came from it. Are you hypnotized? Listen to the sound of my voice. Count slowly backwards from 10. 9, 8. I'm kidding. So what this means for film form, he first talks about it in terms of shots, that you have one shot and then a second shot. When you have them fall, the editing between them, the cut is a collision that in our brain, they can collide and create something new, an idea. That you have one shot, a second shot, they add up to a third thing in our mind. So he's thinking about film as a kind of visual language. it can be, from shot to shot. He hates the idea that shots just build up brick by brick, that you put one shot here, and then another shot here, and then a third shot here, and a fourth shot here, and you've built a wall. No. Nah. Eisenstein does not like the building. There's no motion there. He says, you have one shot coming here, the second shot comes here, that's the third shot, and then that thing gets hit with a fourth shot, and so forth. So he's really interested in collision as a way of thinking about how shots fit together, and then how our mind works, that these collisions are, they're creating ideas, they're creating thoughts and new kinds of thoughts, new kinds of consciousness. He gets pretty far out there with it. So that's happening from shot to shot. He would also talk about the collision between sound and image. So right now this is very synced. Eisenstein would be interested in, some kind of collision that breaks that up, where now all of a sudden things are not synced. This is the simplest example I can think of. My voice is not following what is happening here. So that sound image talks about musical counterpoint. If you know music, this is another way to think about it. And then within the shot, you can have different lines in the composition, or like sides of the frame that there's a counterpoint here in my frame, between this really the dark side over here and then the very bright side over here. That's a conflict within the frame. And he would say that having this conflict is, maybe a better composition here, a rule of thirds, to have that contrast, the opposition, than to, even everything out and for it to all be entirely smooth. So that's the main idea, is this thinking of how all thought in the universe works, that, you start out with a thesis, an antithesis, creates a synthesis, a third thing. And he's going to apply that to thinking about how film works. But he's not going to stop at film. He's going to talk about, all of the world and all of our thoughts and everything. Eisenstein is a really, really exciting and engaged artist. Hope you enjoy reading it.